So in our last video, we were able to edit, and we came to a point where we realized that the edit form and the add customer form are pretty much the same. And if we are going to do single responsibility, if we're going to have clean code, then we need to reuse this form the same way we did with our card. We saw that the card could be reused, so we had to create its own component. So in this video, we are also going to proceed to create a form component, of which we're going to learn a few things like what an event call is. Then we are going to proceed from there. So we're going to head over to our Visual Studio. I will go. So we'll see that the add form here, this edit form, it's more or less the same. The only difference could be maybe here we're saying save, there we're saying update, and maybe the title. But everything else is more or less the same. So we need to create a form first, a component, which we are going to call this component a customer form. So let's add a Reusable component, and let's call that component customer form. So customer form. So this one is a reusable component. It's not going to be routable. So we might as well get rid of that and not even have the page there. The first thing that we want to know is, since there are two forms, there are two modes. One is a create mode, the other is an edit mode. So we need to have a parameter that will allow us to know what mode we are in. So with a boolean, public bool is edit mode. Okay, it could be edit mode, it could be is create mode. Then we'll say by default it will be in create mode. So we'll set that to false. So that's one parameter that we might need to help us. The second parameter we need is obviously a customer ID. Because if we're editing, then we need to know what the customer ID is. So that would be one of the parameters that is needed. As we've done with every other form, we had to supply the parameters. We had to supply the parameters from a form. So we also need to supply the parameter. In this case, that is a customer. The customer there would need to be supplied. The other thing that we've looked at that's similar is the title. So we also need to come up with a title. So we can say private string title. But we want this title to be, if our mode is editing mode, then it must say edit customer. If the mode is add customer, then it must say add new customer. There we go. Then we need also, when we initialize this component, we want to know what mode we are on. So for us to, if we're in edit mode, then we need to use the customer ID to go get from the repository. That means we need to inject the customer repository dependency there. So inject I customer repository called customer repository. Then we're going to override. On initialize the sync. Then we'll say, first of all, before when it loads, we want to know the state. So if is edit mode, then in this we're going to say the customer, and remember we used this, we're going to say the customer, we're using that now cadence operator. If it's edit mode, then give us who the customer is. If it is not the edit mode, then just give us the customer will just be a new instance of that class. All right, so those are the parameters. Now we need to proceed and get to the markup. How will the markup look? First of all, we want to only do this thing if the customer is not null, right? For the edit one. So what we'll do is we'll say if customer, okay, if customer is not null, if it is not null, then we need a form. And we have the form in the add form here, which is here, this edit form. I can break it down there and just copy it. Copy this and bring it here. All right. Then add customer, it will be add or edit. It will be add or edit customer form. This will be add or edit customer. So the title there will just be this guy here. So that will be our title. That solves a lot of problems, and would want to know if we are in if is edit mode. If it's edit mode, there's something you remember that we need, and that is to have a hidden input field, which we had in the edit customer. That would be very, very critical for this, and the value will be the customer.id, is it? Okay. What else? We have the customer name, email, phone number. Everything else looks okay for me. But when we submit the customer, we need to tell our parent to say this has been done. So we'll come up with another parameter here, and in this parameter, we'll say public. It will be an event callback of customer, and we can call that onValid customer submit, and that will be a get and a set. So if that happens, it will be a get, and it will be a get and a set. Get and set. So when our form wants to submit, we need to have that add or edit customer. So we also need to have that function. We can say private async task add or edit customer. You'd want to invoke await onValid submit, which is this guy dot customer. So there we go. We have the customer ID there. We have everything looking nice and okay. So we've created this reusable component called a customer form. Just like the nav menu, just like the nav card, if I go to the add customer there, I'm going to comment out, or we can even delete everything there and say, when it comes to add, give me the customer form. Give me the customer form, right? The customer form wants to know is editable. Remember, it's a parameter, so now it knows. Are we editing? No, we are not. And it will need to say onValid customer submit. We want you to invoke this add customer. Let's copy that. Invoke this add customer, right? So we'll give you the we'll call this function. It means we're no longer supplying from this form, and this code can go away. What we'll do here is to bring the customer, which we're sending there, and say customer, which will in turn give it to that guy. So this is done. Then we'll go to the edit. I will also call the edit form there, and we are going to delete that. For here, we're also going to say customer form, close that. Is editable? This is edit, right? Yes, true. It wants the customer ID, which will be, well, you guessed it. It's going to be the ID. Then it also wants to know onValid customer submit. We want to call the edit customer 2. We could remove the 2, but okay, it's fine. So it means we won't need things from the parameter, and since we are sending it, there's no need for us to also wait on initialized. All we can do here is give it the customer and say customer, which we can throw it over there. We don't need to check, like so. So let's go to the customer form. We have save there. So let's try to run it and see. what we are going to get. So I'm going to click the hot reload. So it's loaded. I'll try to add customer, and we see that it says add customer, but we're seeing private async task add customer. Okay, that should be with our markup. So let's go to the custom form, add. Interesting. Let's just try to add test client tclient at gmail.com 12345. Let's try to save that, and we get that test client there. The only drawback is I think just some markup has remained. If I edit this test client, put test client 10 or 1234 and save, I get test client 1234. So everything is working. The only challenge is this private async task on the add new customer. I wonder where that could be coming from. Let's open the add new customer. Do we have, yeah, apologies, I don't know where that came from. But yeah, if you do that, then we do expect that to be gone, and we can add a customer, and we can go back to, you can add a customer, and we can go back to edit. So we have been able to just create one form that does everything for us. And that's the thing about Blazor being component based. You can always reuse a component. The next video, in the last video, is we want to go back to the customers and see how we can delete an entry. So thank you very much.